There are only three colors of atomic breath that have ever existed in the Monsterverse: blue, orange, and the one that should genuinely scare you, pink. And here is what almost every fan gets wrong about all three. The color is not a paint job. It is a confession. Every time that beam changes color, Godzilla is telling the planet exactly how close he is to becoming something it cannot survive. Blue is the warning, orange is the meltdown, and pink. Pink is the version that stopped happening by accident and started happening on purpose. Three colors, three power thresholds. And the gap between the first one and the last one is the difference between a guard dog and an extinction level event. Atomic breath is not a flamethrower, and it is not magic. It is concentrated nuclear radiation, superheated and fired as a focused beam. And the color of that beam is a direct readout of how much energy is moving through Godzilla's body the instant he pulls the trigger. So watch his spine, not his mouth. The dorsal plates running down his back light up in sequence. A wave of light traveling from his tail to his skull a fraction of a second before he fires. That glow is the charge. That glow is the color. And in 5 films, that color has never once lied. Here's the part nobody catalogs correctly. Atomic breath belongs to exactly one bloodline, Godzilla's species. Only 3 colors of it have ever been put on screen, and each one marks a different evolutionary state of the same animal. But the internet is full of people pointing at golden lightning, at freezing white mist, at a glowing machine, and calling all of it atomic breath. It is not. So this works in 2 halves. First, the 3 real atomic breath colors, what triggers each one, and what each one costs him. Then, the 3 beams everyone confuses for atomic breath, and why getting them wrong means you have misunderstood the entire power structure of this universe. Because the colors are not trivia. The colors are the map. Blue. This is the resting state, the factory setting, the version of the weapon Godzilla has carried for over 250 million years. The world met it in 2014 in San Francisco, and it did not meet it gently. A female Muto had him pinned, jaws spread wide, and instead of clawing free, he forced her mouth open with both hands, aimed straight down her throat, and let the blue light crawl up his spine 1 plate at a time. Then he fired. The beam punched through her neck and took her head clean off her shoulders. Fans named the move themselves the Kiss of Death, and it told everyone watching exactly what kind of creature this was. Not an animal that bites, an animal that executes. Blue breath is ionized radiation forced into a directed beam, and even at this baseline, it runs hot enough to melt steel and glass concrete into a glowing scar. But here is the detail that matters. Blue is restraint. Blue is Godzilla operating at a power level he can hold forever. Fire after fire, no recovery, no cost to his own body. It is the enforcement tool of an alpha who does not need to try. And Monarch's earliest seismic and radiation readings clocked that signature decades before the public ever knew Titans existed. For 2 entire films, blue was the ceiling. Everyone assumed it was the ceiling. The next color proved the ceiling was a lie. Orange. In 2019, in the burning ruins of Boston, Godzilla stopped glowing blue and started glowing like the core of a reactor. The fandom calls this Burning Godzilla, and here's the part that gets misremembered constantly. It did not happen because he leveled up. It happened because he was dying. King Ghidorah had beaten him into the dirt, and a Monarch scientist named Serizawa walked a live nuclear warhead directly to Godzilla's body in the sunken hollow earth temple and detonated it by hand. A one-way trip, a man putting his palm on a god to say goodbye, just to flood a fading king with enough radiation to stand back up. He stood, but he absorbed too much. His skin split open with orange light along every seam. His dorsal plates burned molten. His atomic breath turned a furious red-orange, and his whole body began throwing off heat in waves violent enough to set the air itself on fire. Then Mothra died, shielding him, taking a triple blast of Ghidorah's lightning meant for his skull, and poured the last of her life energy into his body, shoving the overload past the edge. The Burning Godzilla that disintegrated King Ghidorah headfirst was not a stronger Godzilla. He was a Godzilla cooking himself alive, cells burning faster than they could regenerate, a meltdown wearing the shape of a king. Orange is not strength. Orange is a creature spending its own life as ammunition. which is exactly what makes the third color so unsettling, because the third time, nothing was killing him at all: pink. By the time of the new Empire, Godzilla does something he has never done in this franchise. He prepares. He goes on a deliberate radiation binge across the surface, draining a nuclear facility to empty, and then he does the single strangest thing a 90-meter apex predator has ever been filmed doing. He climbs into the Roman Colosseum, curls into the ancient stone like a cat into a basket, and sleeps. He is not resting. He is charging. And when he wakes, the blue is gone. His dorsal plates have turned a brilliant electric pink, and so has the beam. Here is the detail that separates pink from every other color on this list. Orange was an accident, a body shoved past its own ceiling. Pink is an upgrade he chose. The evolution is a targeted adaptation to one specific enemy, Shimo, an ancient ice titan whose power runs on cold so absolute it can freeze a living creature solid in seconds. You do not beat absolute cold with the same tired blue beam you have always used. You climb the energy ladder until your weapon burns hotter and tighter than anything that came before. And pink sits at the very top of that ladder. So picture what actually happened here. Godzilla looked at a threat he could not yet beat, made the call to walk away, drained a power plant, slept inside a Roman ruin to metabolize it, and came back as a measurably different animal. On purpose, ahead of time, for a fight that had not started yet. That is not survival instinct. That is strategy. A 250-million-year-old reptile outplanning a war, and those are the three real ones. Now here are the three that everybody gets wrong. Gold. The most common mistake in the entire fandom is pointing at King Ghidorah's beams and calling them breath. They are not breath, and they are not atomic. They are gravity beams. Golden bioelectric energy fired from three independent mouths, each head able to aim and fire on its own. That detail alone is terrifying when you sit with it. Ghidorah can hit three separate targets at once, while Godzilla can only ever hit one. And the gold is the dead giveaway. Every Earthborn Titan's energy reads in the cold end of the spectrum. Blues, whites, the colors of this planet's chemistry. Ghidorah burns gold because Ghidorah is not from this planet. He is the only confirmed alien alpha in the Monsterverse, a frequency and a weapon that were never supposed to exist here, which is precisely why his reign did not regulate the ecosystem. It broke it. One thing worth knowing because it pays off in a way most casual viewers never connect. When Godzilla finally tore Ghidorah apart, one of those three golden heads survived the battle, severed, not entirely dead. A human faction recovered it from the wreckage, and they did not bury it. They wired it into something, and the gold did not stay gold. White. Shimo's breath is the reason pink had to exist, and it is the most important beam on this list precisely because it does the exact opposite of everything atomic breath does. Atomic breath adds energy, heat, radiation, fire. Shimo's cryogenic breath strips it away, dragging temperature down toward absolute zero in a pale blue-white blast cold enough to flash freeze a skyscraper-sized titan mid-stride. The lore ties her directly to the last great ice age, a single creature with enough power to rewrite the planet's climate by exhaling. And Shimo does not fight by choice. She is a slave. The Scar King controls her through a crystal weapon that floods her nervous system with raw pain to force obedience, meaning every freezing blast she fires is being tortured out of her against her will. She is older than almost anything else walking the surface, a living doomsday weapon pointed at the world by a creature small enough to ride her and cruel enough to hold the leash. The frost is not aggression, the frost is captivity, which leaves exactly one beam, the one a tyrant like the Scar King would understand best of all, because humans built it for the same reason he built his leash: control, red and violet. Mechagodzilla's mouth beam is called the Proton Scream, and it is the only beam on this entire list with no biology behind it whatsoever. Apex Cybernetics built it, humans who had decided Godzilla was a problem to be replaced rather than a king to be survived. And they reverse-engineered a weapon to imitate atomic breath using engineering instead of evolution. But a machine that size needed a power source no machine should ever have been given. So they went back to that severed golden head. They channeled raw hollow earth energy through the skull of King Ghidorah, And they use the dead alien's lingering consciousness as the living brain of their robot, a corporate cover-up sitting on top of an actual god-severed nervous system. It went exactly as badly as that sentence sounds. Ghidorah woke up inside the machine, seized control through the neural link, and turned the most expensive weapon humanity ever built against the very people who built it. The proton scream is the only beam in the Monsterverse fired by a corpse. It is what you get when you try to manufacture the power of a god instead of becoming one. And it is the cleanest argument in 5 films for why the real colors only ever belong to Godzilla. You cannot weld your way to that throne. You have to evolve into it. So count them one more time. Blue, the warning. Orange, the meltdown. Pink, the choice. 3 colors, 3 thresholds, and 1 pattern running underneath all of it. Every single time Godzilla has changed color, it was an answer to a threat the last color could not beat. Blue answered the surface. Orange answered an alien king. Pink answered absolute zero. Which leaves the only question that actually matters. We have seen a sliver of what is buried in the hollow earth, and something down there is going to drag the next color out of him. When it does, pink is going to look like the warning shot. So subscribe right now and lock in the next breakdown. And you do not want to be the last person alive who finds out what color comes after pink.